A multinational corporation has hired a lead IT consultant to assess the security of its various systems, including Windows and Linux servers, desktops, and mobile devices in different countries. To ensure consistent security across all these systems, which of the following tools would the consultant recommend the organization use to automate the deployment of secure baseline configurations? It's Puppet. Organizations can use configuration management tools like Puppet to automate the deployment of secure baseline configurations across various diverse systems. Puppet helps enforce consistency and detect deviancies from the established baseline. A security administrator reviews the network configurations of a recently deployed server. The administrator notices that certain unnecessary services have access to the server, potentially creating vulnerabilities. The administrator decides to refine the access control list, ACL, to enhance the server security. Which action will the security administrator most likely take when refining the ACL to ensure that only necessary services communicate with the server, thereby reducing potential attack vectors? And that's deny all traffic and allow exceptions based on requirement. When securing an ACL, best practices dictate denying all traffic by default and permitting only necessary specific traffic. This deny by default principle ensures that only approved traffic accesses the resource. The network administrator for a large corporation recently detected multiple unauthorized intrusion attempts on the network. As a result, the team deployed an intrusion detection system and an intrusion prevention system. The team aims to block malicious traffic and automatically receive alerts on suspicious activities. The administrator needs to choose an approach that offers real-time protection against active threats and can modify or reject traffic in the network. Based on the desired outcomes and functionality, the network administrator requires which system should the team primarily focus on for real-time traffic modification and blocking active threats. And that's Intrusion Prevention System, IPS. An intrusion prevention system actively monitors the network traffic. It can modify and automatically block malicious real-time traffic, fulfilling the administrator's requirements. Which of the following practices is critical for device hardening by providing a standard set of guidelines or checklists for configuring devices securely? That's least functionality principle. The least functionality principle is critical for device hardening by providing a standard set of guidelines or checklists for configuring devices securely. It ensures that a system should run only the protocols and services required by legitimate users and no more, which reduces the attack surface. A newly hired cybersecurity manager of a software company evaluates the available intrusion detection and intrusion prevention capabilities of the company. What method detects changes in normal baseline operating data sequences and identifies abnormal sequences? That's behavioral-based detection. Behavioral-based detection is a network monitoring system that detects changes in normal operating data sequences and identifies abnormal sequences. It uses an engine that is trained to recognize baseline normal traffic or events. A medium-sized enterprise is revamping its wireless network infrastructure to improve security. The IT manager decided to update the company's Wi-Fi authentication method as the first step. The main objective is to have a solution that ensures the identity of the connecting devices while also providing an additional layer of security for user authentication. Which Wi-Fi authentication method best fits the IT manager's requirement to validate device identity and robust user authentication for the company's wireless network infrastructure? And that's Wi-Fi Protected Access 3 Enterprise. Wi-Fi Protected Access 3, which is WPA3, enterprise provides robust security and supports authentication methods that validate both the device and the user, such as extensible authentication protocol. A co-working office wants to upgrade its Wi-Fi encryption to Wi-Fi Protected Access 3. Which feature of WPA3 replaces the pre-shared key exchange protocol in WPA2 to ensure an attacker cannot intercept the Wi-Fi password, even when capturing data from a successful login? And that's simultaneous authentication of equals. SAE is a feature of WPA3 that replaces the pre-shared key exchange protocol in WPA2. SAE, which is simultaneous authentication equals, ensures attackers cannot intercept the Wi-Fi password even if they intercept the login. A company's IT security specialist decides to upgrade the wireless network infrastructure to enhance data protection during transmissions. Recognizing the importance of strong encryption for wireless data, the specialist evaluates the various encryption standards available. Which wireless encryption standard offers the most robust security for protecting wireless data transmissions and has become the preferred choice for many organizations? That's Wi-Fi Protected Access 3. Wi-Fi Protected Access 3 WPA enhances security beyond its predecessors and is the most robust wireless data protection encryption standard. It rectifies vulnerabilities found in WPA2 and represents the latest standard. Which of the following methods is a replacement for Wi-Fi Protected Setup, WPS, as a more secure means of configuring client devices with the necessary information to access a Wi-Fi network? That's Device Provisioning Protocol. Wi-Fi Easy Connect, also known as Device Provisioning Protocol, DPP, replaces Wi-Fi Protected Setup. It uses quick response QR codes or near-field communication NFC tags to communicate public keys between devices. A security administrator plans to enhance the security posture of an organization's computing infrastructure. The administrator starts by documenting the current state of all system configurations and intends to establish a foundation to enforce security standards. Given the scenario, which security technique is the security administrator preparing to implement that ensures consistent application of security configurations across all systems in the organization? That's secure baselines. Security professionals document the standardized secure baselines for specific types of devices or software. These baselines act as a starting point for system configurations and guarantee consistent application of security settings across an organization's system. A large organization faces increasing threats from unauthorized devices trying to gain access to its network. The Chief Information Security Officer seeks to modify the company's network infrastructure to incorporate a more rigorous method of validating both users and devices before granting access to resources. Which network access control method should the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, implement to ensure rigorous validation of both users and devices, offering the highest level of security against unauthorized access to the company's network resources? That's 802.1x. The standard 802.1x provides port-based network access control, ensuring high security by rigorously authenticating both users and devices. It uses credentials or digital certificates to verify the identity of each entity before granting access. An organization decides to revamp its cloud infrastructure. The IT manager instructs the team to initiate the process by ensuring the starting configurations for all systems adhere to specific security settings. This effort aims to create a foundation that facilitates the consistent application of security techniques across all systems. When the IT team works on the organization's cloud infrastructure to establish a foundation for consistent security techniques, which approach best reflects using security baselines. Establishing standardized configurations for devices and software. Secure baselines incorporate detailed, documented, and standardized configurations that professionals utilize as an initial guide when setting up systems, guaranteeing uniform security protocols across platforms. A healthcare organization has tasked a new security lead to improve its data protection strategy. The organization is heavily dependent on medical devices, electronic health records, and communication systems that are all interconnected. How can a security lead reason with the executive leadership team to implement secure baselines for network devices, software, and other components to the executive leadership team? It enhances IT security and operational efficiencies. Secure baselines provide IT security and operational efficiencies by providing standard configurations and rules for securing the environment. An organization has a significant amount of mobile devices that it manages. What mobile device deployment model gives the organization the most control over the device, thereby improving security? That's COBO, corporate owned, business only, grants the organization ownership of the device, allowing its use solely for company business, providing the most control and improved security. A large manufacturing company relies heavily on industrial control systems to operate its production lines. The company has a range of devices including programmable logic controllers, PLCs, and human machine interfaces, HMIs, spread across the factory floor. Due to recent concerns about potential cyber threats, management wants to improve the security of these devices. How would the cybersecurity manager convince senior management of the primary objective of implementing physical device port hardening? It restricts access to physical interfaces. Physical device port hardening aims to restrict access to physical interfaces on a device, such as a universal serial bus like a USB, a high-definition multimedia interface is a HDMI, or serial ports. It reduces potential avenues of physical attack and prevents unauthorized data transfer, malicious software installation, or direct system access. Which cybersecurity approach monitors and analyzes the behavior of users within an organization to detect anomalies indicative of potential threats, such as insider threats, compromised accounts, or fraud? That's User Behavior Analytics, UBA. User and Entity Behavior Analytics, UEBA. UEBA detects anomalies that could indicate potential threats, such as insider threats, compromised accounts, or fraudulent activities. It leverages machine learning and statistical analysis to establish a baseline profile for users and entities, and then continuously compares new behavior against this baseline. A medium-sized company has entrusted its IT administrator with the crucial responsibility of improving network security. The company's network contains sensitive financial data, proprietary software, and employee records. Since the IT administrator's task is implementing access control lists, ACLs, what is the primary objective for using them in computer systems and networks? It is to regulate and manage permissions for resource access and actions. Access control lists regulate and manage permissions for users, software, systems, and networks to access resources or perform specific actions. They specify which users or groups can or cannot have access to resources and define permitted or prohibited actions. An organization's cybersecurity analyst is currently assessing various web filtering technologies for implementation. What is one of the key benefits of web filtering in cybersecurity operations? That is, preventing malware infections and phishing attacks from malicious websites. The key benefit of web filtering is the prevention of malware, including ransomware and phishing attacks, which often originate from malicious websites, by restricting access to these sites. Web filters significantly reduce the risk of malware infections. A critical infrastructure organization responsible for managing energy distribution across a large region relies heavily on industrial control systems, ICS, and supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA systems to monitor and control the power grid. Given the critical nature of the operations, the IT team has implemented a control to safeguard these systems. Which control did the IT team use to protect ICS and SCADA systems? That is, network segmentation. Network segmentation isolates industrial control systems and supervisory control and data acquisition systems from the wider network, protecting them by limiting access and defending against the inbound attacks. A small company recently installed an intrusion detection system. What is the purpose of the analysis engine in the IDS? To interpret and scan captured traffic for suspicious activity. An IDS's analysis engine scans and interprets the captured traffic to identify suspicious activity, classify events, and generate incident reports. A large financial corporation wants to incorporate a sandbox in its network. What is the purpose of using a sandbox to endpoint security? That is, to isolate and contain malicious files or processes. Using a sandbox in endpoint security isolates and contains potentially malicious files or processes. It is in a controlled environment where the system can execute suspicious or untrusted applications separately from the rest of the system, allowing security analysis to observe and analyze their behavior. A cybersecurity team for a technology company specializes in developing mobile applications for various industries. The team is working on a new app that utilizes location services to provide users with real-time updates on nearby events and activities. The app's success depends on its ability to provide accurate and relevant information based on the user's current location. However, the project stakeholders have expressed concerns about certain aspects of location services. What is the primary concern surrounding location services in mobile devices? That is privacy. Navigation and mapping use location services, but it also raises privacy concerns. For example, location services can monitor movements, which may lead to stalking, social manipulation, and identity theft. What is the purpose of implementing the principle of least privilege in endpoint protection? That is, to grant minimum permissions needed to perform tasks. The purpose of implementing the principle of least privilege, POLP, in endpoint protection is to grant users, applications, and process the minimum necessary permissions required to perform their specific duties and tasks. Which security feature in the Linux kernel supports access control security policies, including mandatory access controls? MAC. That's SEL Linux. SEL Linux is a security feature of the Linux kernel that supports access control security policies, including mandatory access controls. It allows granular permission control over every process and system object, strictly limiting the resources a process can access and what operations it can perform. Which intrusion detection method involves the analysis engine trained to recognize baseline, normal traffic, and generates an incident when it detects deviations from this baseline? Behavioral and anomaly-based detection. Behavioral and anomaly-based detection involves training the engine to recognize any activity that deviates from this baseline to generate an incident. It helps identify zero-day attacks, insider threats, and other malicious activities without a specific signature. An organization uses host-based intrusion detection prevention to secure the enterprise. Why would the organization use this type of mitigation technique? To monitor and protect individual hosts, like a computer or server, from unauthorized access or malicious activities. Host-based intrusion detections and host intrusion prevention systems tools continuously monitor and analyze endpoints using signature-based detection, anomaly detection, and behavior analysis to identify suspicious activities. With such visibility, security personnel promptly detect, respond to potential security threats and compromises within the enterprise's endpoint devices. What is the primary purpose of the cybersecurity approach of user behavior analytics, UBA, or user and entity behavior analytics, UEBA? It is to monitor and analyze users' behavior to detect potential threats. UBA or UEBA monitors and analyzes the behavior of users within an organization, detecting anomalies indicative of potential threats. It leverages machine learning, data science, and statistical analysis, establishing a baseline profile for users and entities. It continuously monitors new behavior against the established baseline, detecting unusual or suspicious activities.